Every prison has a door. The most dangerous one doesn't even need walls. Every morning, millions of people wake up believing they're making their own decisions. But before they speak, before they act, before they take a single step toward their future, an invisible voice has already decided what they'll do. It tells them to wait. It tells them they're not ready. It tells them to stay where it's safe. And because it speaks in their own voice, they never question it. The tragedy isn't that the mind is powerful. The tragedy is that most people never realize who's really in control. Most people don't lose control of their lives because they're weak. They lose control because they never learned who was really in charge. Right now, as you're listening to this, there's a voice inside your head making decisions about your future. It tells you when to quit, when to hesitate, when you're not good enough, and most of the time, you obey it without question. That's the real tragedy, because the greatest battle you'll ever fight isn't against the economy, bad luck, difficult people, or impossible circumstances. It's against a mind that was never trained to serve you. And until that changes, nothing else will. Here's the unsettling truth almost no one wants to admit. Your future isn't being stolen by one catastrophic mistake. It's being stolen by thousands of invisible thoughts you never bothered to challenge. One doubt, one excuse, one distraction, one moment of hesitation. Alone, they seem harmless. Together, they quietly build a life you never intended to live. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Your mind doesn't care whether your beliefs are true. It only cares whether they're repeated. Tell yourself long enough that you're unlucky. Your brain begins searching for proof. Repeat that you're behind everyone else. Every success around you suddenly feels like evidence against you. The world hasn't changed, only the lens through which you're looking at it. And that's exactly where almost everyone gets trapped. They spend years trying to fix their circumstances, while the machine creating those circumstances keeps running untouched. Think about it. A farmer would never expect healthy crops from poisoned soil. Yet millions expect confidence while feeding their minds fear. They expect success while rehearsing failure. They expect peace while constantly entertaining chaos. The outcome isn't surprising. It's inevitable. But then something extraordinary happens. The moment you become aware of this invisible pattern, for the first time, you realize something that changes everything. You are not every thought that enters your mind. You're the one listening. And once you understand that, the chains begin to crack. Because if you can observe a thought, you can question it. If you can question it, you can replace it. And if you can replace it, you can slowly replace the life it was creating. That single realization has transformed ordinary people into extraordinary leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, athletes, and visionaries throughout history. Not because they were born different, because they stopped believing every thought deserved their obedience. But there's a problem. The mind doesn't surrender control without resistance. The moment you decide to think differently, it fights back. It reminds you of old failures. It predicts new disasters. It whispers that nothing will change. And that's precisely why so many people quit just before their lives begin to change. The strange part is, your greatest enemy doesn't sound like an enemy. It sounds exactly like you. It speaks with your voice. It uses your memories. It disguises fear as logic. And unless you recognize that deception, you'll spend your entire life following instructions written by your worst doubts. So the question isn't whether you're intelligent enough, talented enough, or lucky enough. The real question is far more important. Asterisk, who is actually controlling your mind? Because once you discover the answer, you'll finally understand why controlling your life has always felt so impossible. And the hidden psychology behind that answer is far deeper than most people ever realize. The greatest deception your mind will ever tell you isn't. You can't. It's not today. Those two words have buried more dreams than failure ever could, because your life rarely changes through one dramatic decision. It changes through small delays that quietly become permanent habits. One postponed conversation, one skipped opportunity, one promise you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next year, and before you realize it, you've become a stranger to the person you once wanted to be. But here's the question almost nobody asks. Who taught your mind to think this way? You weren't born doubting yourself. A child doesn't hesitate before taking their first steps because they're afraid of looking foolish. They fall, they laugh, they stand up again. The fear comes later. After enough criticism, comparison, disappointment, and rejection begin writing invisible stories inside the mind. Those stories become beliefs, and beliefs become the silent blueprint of your life. The frightening part is that most people never stop to examine them. They simply obey. Asterisk. This is where everything begins to make sense. Imagine wearing a pair of glasses with dark lenses your entire life. After years, you wouldn't notice the lenses anymore. You would simply believe the world itself was dark. That's exactly what limiting beliefs do. They don't change reality. They change the way you interpret reality. The opportunity was always there. Your mind simply stopped looking for it. Asterisk. And that's why two people can stand in the exact same situation, yet walk away with completely different futures. One sees a closed door, the other starts searching for a window. One hears criticism, the other hears instruction. One experiences failure, the other discovers feedback. Nothing outside has changed. Only the meaning assigned to the experience. And meaning is one of the greatest forces shaping a human life. Because your actions never begin with reality. They begin with interpretation. But then something unexpected happens. The moment you begin observing your thoughts instead of immediately believing them, you create a small space between stimulus and response. That space is invisible, yet it holds incredible power. Inside that space lies choice, and inside choice lies freedom. Most people never find it. They react before they reflect. They let emotion become instruction. Anger decides their words. Fear decides their future. Comfort decides their potential. Days become years without a single intentional decision. Here's where almost everyone loses control. They mistake feelings for facts. I feel incapable, so they conclude they are incapable. I feel afraid, so they assume danger must be real. But feelings are temporary visitors. They are not permanent authorities. A cloudy sky doesn't erase the sun. It only hides it for a while. The same is true of your potential. Temporary doubt cannot erase permanent possibility, unless you allow it to. History quietly proves this lesson, again and again. Every remarkable achievement began long before the world applauded it, before the invention, before the masterpiece, before the championship. There was an ordinary person sitting alone, wrestling with an extraordinary amount of uncertainty. The difference wasn't that they never questioned themselves. The difference was that they refused to let those questions make the final decision. They kept moving, even while uncertain, even while uncomfortable, even while afraid. And that's a level of mental strength few people ever develop. Asterisk. But here's the strange part. Your mind becomes whatever you repeatedly ask it to become. Ask, why does this always happen to me? It searches for problems. Ask, what can I learn from this? It searches for solutions. Your brain is like a powerful search engine. It answers the questions you consistently feed it. Charm the question, and you begin changing your future. Now think about the modern world for a moment. Every day, thousands of voices compete for your attention. Advertisements, headlines, social media, opinions, notifications. Everyone wants to occupy your mind because they know something incredibly valuable. Whoever controls your attention slowly influences your direction. And attention is the foundation of thought. If you never decide where your focus belongs, someone else will, without asking your permission. That's why protecting your attention isn't a luxury anymore. It's survival. So how do you reclaim control? Not by eliminating fear, not by waiting for confidence, not by hoping life suddenly becomes easier. You reclaim control one thought at a time, one intentional decision at a time, one disciplined action at a time. Because every time you choose purpose over impulse, every time you act despite uncertainty, every time you refuse to believe the oldest lie your mind keeps repeating, You become just a little stronger than yesterday, and something remarkable begins happening. The voice that once controlled you slowly grows quieter, not because it disappears, but because another voice becomes stronger, the voice of discipline, the voice of clarity, the voice of the person you're becoming. And that is the turning point most people never reach. Because what happens next isn't just about changing your thoughts. It's about transforming your entire identity. And once that transformation begins, the life you've been trying so hard to change finally starts changing with you. Everything changes the day you stop trying to win the battle around you and start winning the battle within you. That sounds simple, but it is one of the rarest decisions a human being can make. Because the world trains you to believe that success is found somewhere outside yourself. A better opportunity, a better economy, a better relationship, a better version of tomorrow. But the truth is far less comforting. Your life will never consistently rise above the level of your mind. You may experience moments of luck. You may stumble into success. You may even achieve goals you once thought impossible. But if your mind remains undisciplined, you'll eventually return to the same emotional patterns that created your old life. This is why some people earn fortunes and lose them. Some finally reach their dream career, yet remain deeply unhappy. Others seem to have everything, but never feel enough. The outside changed, the inside never did. And eventually, the inside always catches up. But here's the realization that changes everything. Your identity is not carved into stone. It is written through repetition. Every choice you make is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every morning, you honor a promise to yourself. You strengthen the identity of someone who can be trusted. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you become a little more courageous. Every moment you protect your focus instead of surrendering it. You become someone who leads their own mind instead of following the crowd. Character isn't built in extraordinary moments. It's built in ordinary ones, the decisions no one applauds, the habits no one notices, the promises no one else knows you kept. Those are the moments that quietly shape a remarkable life. But then something remarkable begins to happen. The things that once controlled you begin losing their power. The criticism that once ruined your entire week becomes a passing opinion. The fear that once stopped you becomes a signal to move forward. The distractions that once stole your attention become easier to ignore. Not because the world has become quieter, because your mind has become stronger. And a strong mind doesn't need perfect conditions. It creates stability in imperfect ones. Think of a lighthouse standing on a rocky coastline. Storms arrive without warning. Massive waves crash against its foundation. Violent winds push from every direction. Yet the lighthouse remains exactly where it was built. Its purpose isn't to stop the storm. Its purpose is to remain steady through it. Your mind can become that lighthouse. Life will continue bringing uncertainty. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Unexpected setbacks will appear. None of that is optional. But losing yourself in the middle of those storms, that is. Because resilience isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the refusal to surrender your direction because of it. Now ask yourself something honestly. Who would you become if your fears no longer made your decisions? What opportunities would you pursue? What conversations would you finally have? What dream would you stop postponing? How many years have already been sacrificed to thoughts that were never true? Most people never answer those questions. They distract themselves. They stay busy. They keep waiting for confidence to arrive first. But confidence has always been a reward, never a requirement. It grows every time you keep a promise to yourself. Every disciplined action whispers the same message to your subconscious. I can trust myself. And self-trust is the foundation of every meaningful achievement. Because once you trust yourself, you stop needing constant approval from everyone else. You stop comparing your journey with someone else's timeline. You stop allowing temporary setbacks to define your future. Instead of asking whether you'll succeed, you simply become the kind of person who refuses to stop growing. That's a completely different way of living. Here's what most people never realize until it's too late. Time doesn't just pass. It compounds. Every thought compounds. Every habit compounds. Every decision compounds. Just as money grows through consistent investment, character grows through consistent choices. Today may not seem important. Neither did yesterday. But together, they become your future. The life you'll live 5 years from now is quietly being built by the thoughts you repeat today. Not by chance, not by fate, but by daily mental direction. That is both the responsibility and the freedom of being human. Because no matter what happened yesterday, you still possess one extraordinary power, the power to choose your next thought. No one can think it for you. No one can take it away from you. No failure can erase it. No criticism can destroy it. It remains yours until your very last breath. And that power is greater than most people ever discover, because once you truly direct your thoughts, your actions begin changing naturally. When your actions change, your habits begin changing. When your habits change, your character transforms, and when your character transforms, your destiny quietly follows. That's why lasting success is never created from the outside in. It's always created from the inside out. The world may applaud the results, but it never sees the invisible victories that made those results possible. The mornings you chose discipline over excuses. The evenings you chose learning over distraction. The moments you refused to let fear make another decision on your behalf. Those silent victories become the loudest achievements of your life. So before you try to conquer your career, conquer your attention. Before you try to change your circumstances, change your thinking. Before you ask life to give you more, become someone who can create more, because the quality of your future will never exceed the quality of the mind creating it. And perhaps the greatest freedom you'll ever experience isn't having unlimited money, unlimited time, or unlimited opportunity. It's waking up each morning knowing that your thoughts no longer control you. You control them. That is where real confidence begins. That is where lasting peace is found. And that is where an ordinary life quietly becomes extraordinary. So when this video ends, don't wait for another Monday, another month, or another year. Begin with the next decision. Protect your attention. Guard your thoughts. Keep your promises to yourself. Faster your mind one moment at a time. Because when you learn to govern the only place where every decision begins, you'll discover something few people ever do. The person you've been waiting for to change your life has been thinking inside your own mind all along.